Well, hello. Welcome to Will Fruin's Normalizing Men's Mental Health. I am not Will Fruin. I'm Will's friend Rodney. Thanks everybody for joining us. Today we get the fun experience of talking to our friend Will. Will, thanks for joining us on your podcast. We've had a chance to chit chat here a little bit, but Will was looking to flip the script a little bit and change the dynamic of his podcast. And I know at the beginning, Will, you got to share an introduction on yourself and a brief bit of your history. You're on episode 12 now with, I think, 13 in the works. Does that sound right?
Yep, this would be episode 13.
All right. So we're not counting yourself, right?
No.
13 plus. So.
13 plus.
Great. Well, this is Will's opportunity to maybe go into a little bit more in depth on his story. And also open up that dialogue that's already exists to maybe open up some more questions to you about some of your experiences as well. But here, again, just quick introduction on myself. My name is Rodney Levesque, friend of Will's. I live here in Billings, Montana with Will. We met probably 2 years ago. Myself, former Marine as well, working in the nonprofit space, supporting veterans. Myself was able to tie off with Will in his role, doing similar things, similar roles and responsibilities, different organizations. But that being said, is all the fun peer-based things in between. Will's been a great help for me as well. So is a great friend, is somebody that does all the things that he does within the veterans community, and just men and people in general in our community here locally. It's been phenomenal. So I just want to, outside of all the fun things, is let's see if we can make you a little bit uncomfortable. And but I want to thank you personally for what you've done for me and what you're doing for the community. With that, before we get into Will's story and all the things with it, a couple of takeaways for me, and really no agenda. I think this will be pretty dynamic and go as the conversations always go. But really 2 takeaways for me. That I'd love to hear. And you and I have had similar conversations, but never really dug into all the aspects. My hope for the audience here today is to take away Will's why, right? Why are you doing this? Obviously, you've had your own struggles. You want to do something different and support the community. As of recent, we both lost friends in the last couple of days. The circumstances around those things, we may never know. We may never share, and those things might not share with us. But 2 different people, 2 different walks of life, 2 different histories with some commonality. Will's, what I think is understand why, continues to get shoved in our face every day. And it sucks. But with that being said, want to open this up to you, Will, is really why. You've done a great thing. You're doing great things. You've had your struggles. And we're going to talk about your story from the beginning to today. But to just preempt that and what you've done with your audience and everybody already is, what gaps do you see? You came to this idea, again, podcasts and communication and all those things that are out there are there today. But you see a gap in what you do every day. You see a gap in the community that you support. You see the gap with your friends, your loved ones, your family, other dudes that you support. I know that's your why, but how did you get there? How did you get to, fuck, it's not working, I got to do something different? So,
well, back in, there's actually a few different things that comes about it. It's when I almost ended my life back in 21, I was actually taking apart and extrapolating all the information that got me to the point of falling asleep on a barrel of a shot, and put myself into a psychiatric center and figuring out what was next with my life, and knowing that I was either going to shit or get off the pot. And I was thinking about the behaviors and how I created that. Fast forward, I started working at the VA after Shad, my therapist, told me I'd probably be better off actually working at the VA than being a civil engineer technician. And he was right. So as working for that, I heard quite a few different themes. Men have a hard time advocating for themselves. The suffer in silence. I remember even when I cut off part of my finger, I didn't make a noise because my mind was, no one fucking cares.
Tell me that. What happened? Cut your finger? Like just making dinner, or what were you doing?
So I was drinking, splitting kindling, and talking on the phone, and I took a hatchet and filleted my finger pretty good. Took off a piece over in Yellowstone National Park back in 2020
On vacation?
vacation.
Okay.
So going why I actually started this, I lost a buddy of mine. His name was Vlad Mirnov, and he ended his life back in 23, the first week of September. And I've lost another buddy that I started with back in 22 in January. I thought about how I almost ended my life. I work with vets every day. I work with a lot of male population. And what I also realized is that doing my role at the micro level has been able to be beneficial. And the reason I wanted to do the podcast or my story was 2 days ago, another guy that I served with that used to be my gunner, he ended his life. Unfortunately, we will not be able to get more information out of him because he's no longer with us. And what I've also started to notice is that we'll go towards substances, we'll go towards anger, we'll go towards anything to escape besides feel emotions. And where traditionally it feels like it's uncomfortable to talk about our emotions. And I realized that doing that for so long, I ended up in a divorce. I was mimicking or emulating how my father behaved. Because my father was stuck in that cycle. I failed another relationship with another really awesome human. And it left me actually alone. And I was thinking about all this, and pretty much that whole jumble is saying that I noticed that I was alone. And when I get a chance to talk to a lot of other people, I know that they feel very alone. Even though they're surrounded by people or surrounded by good time Charlies, they're still alone. They're still lost. And it's scary as fuck to be vulnerable.
What's a good time, Charlie? What's that mean to you? Like you said, friends, but good time, Charlie, is that the same thing or?
So friends, good time Charlie are very different. Friends are authentic, real. They are reliable, dependable, people that you really want to break bread with. Good time Charlie is a person that you go to a bar, you drink with them. You go smoke your weed, or if you are on other higher substances, you do that. And you guys are getting together, and even though you feel like you get into deep conversations, it's very shallow because you're inebriated and you're not allowing yourself to be vulnerable.
I think all the things that you mentioned, Will, is probably something that we've all seen or we all see in the communities that we work in, we live in, we participate in. Obviously, this one's hit you personally more than once because of your career, your own personal experiences, and all that other stuff. But also, where we live is a little bit unique. Tell us about Montana. How'd you end up here? We'll get to your whole story in a minute. But again, specific to your why and your career, obviously, you're working with veterans and such. But more to that, this place is unique, right?
So Montana, Wyoming, and Alaska, they circle each other for the highest rates of suicide. We have a lot of Native Americans. We have a lot of white individuals. Um, when I've had a chance to dip my toe quite into the suicide prevention, curious about the numbers and why those numbers were. Like Native American men have the highest rates per capita as by like culture, they have the rates of suicide, and overall numbers is white males. And when I look at the numbers, 80% of suicide completions come from men, 75% of attempts come from females. And Montana is a very unique place. It's has a lot of farmland. It's the mentality of pull yourself by your bootstraps. The I could do this by myself. But what we also have over here is a culture that is getting lost. It's getting lost as far as how men used to behave to what is being changed to. Um, you asked me how I landed up here. So after I got out of when I was in the hospital, my ex and I, we already broke up. She was watching my dogs, and I knew I was going to be selling my house. And this was back in Colorado, over in Woodland Park, and I'm grateful that she watched my dogs while went and worked on my mental health. And I put about 14 offers on homes in Colorado Springs. And this is when big pharma, you had BlackRock, Vanguard, Hathaway buying up houses left, right, and center, and making it a different type of portfolio where they were going more into the residential instead of just the commercial. And I landed up actually traveling through Billings. I looked at 3 different houses, and I bought a house here. And I was only planning to be here for about 2 years. And I'm about to be going on 4 years in September.
Great. Well, personally, I gotta, I'm glad you didn't leave in 2 years because we wouldn't have met. So, thanks for continuing to be here, and thanks again for doing all the things that you do. We got some of the why, and we'll get to the story piece. But again, specific to what gaps are you seeing in all the programs that you support today that was like, oh, I need to do something above.
So when I was looking at it, culturally, medical and even psychological was really started by men. And then ever since like technology and a lot more people being in the market of areas, what was done in 100 years is done in 10 years, and everything's just expediting. And what I've also noticed is it's been a heavily like anti-male culture. But whereas when I say male, it's like, hey, like masculinity is bad. We throw around terms toxic masculinity. But suicide has not been anything really that much different than 100 years ago. It was just a lot of men at this time. What they would do is they would inebriate themselves or they would drown out their emotions with their family and friends and not being able to communicate the same way because what we were told is to be strong and suck it up. And then with the evolution of what's actually I'm seeing in the change, which I'm grateful for, about the feminist movement of having men start to be open. And it doesn't mean that men have to be less masculine. It just means that they can have more organic conversations with the evolution of where we're at today. So the gap that I saw was we are in my job, my role is supposed to meet somebody where they're at,
Okay.
not where I want them to be. And maybe this is just my bias, but I felt like, and I can really see it, I want you to be here if you're going to be anything worthwhile. And you're a male, you figure it the fuck out, and not actually throwing out a bridge and say, oh, you built a system, this is based off the patriarchy. But even though things are changing, you still need to figure it out. And what I saw was a lot of loss. I saw a lot of breakdown in communication. And the reason I wanted to work on men's mental health, just personally, is because I honestly want people to be able to be vulnerable. Like Rod actually said that I met him 2 years ago. He's actually one of my best friends. I enjoy these type of conversations with people. I enjoy this type of dialogue. But I feel like it adds in more of a relationship base instead of just a time base. And it's more of a substance base. And this is why I wanted to add to fill in the gap wherever I could.
Awesome. So I can tell you what you've done, and I've experienced through your podcast and some of those conversations. But before we get into your story, I want to again personally thank you. And I've gotten an opportunity to share this with my friends and some family and other folks, and there's many other people that are looking at it that aren't. Again, as you've asked to interview me, I'm not there yet, and I hope to be someday. But these conversations have helped that, and I can't tell you how many people that I know that are watching your stuff. It's husbands, wives, family members, everybody else to help understand those different things that maybe they see in their spouse, their cousin, their brother, their somebody else, or maybe their coworker, maybe their employee. But great feedback and super awesome dialogue, man. You've kind of poked the bear, and I know that's what you're trying to do. And that being said, you ready to get poked?
Well, the last thing I'll share too was I was at APC in Karen and Mitch, and I remember actually them talking about this, and also some people from BNN, Blake and Mike McManus.
So what are those organizations?
Adaptive Performance Center is a veteran gym, but it's more of a wellness center. So over
Okay.
here in Billings and also in Helena, and they do a really great job with community and connection. And also
Awesome.
VNN is a veteran navigation network. They're pretty much the go-to shop with a lot of different questions and helping people be able to reach individuals. So one of the questions I remember actually getting brought up was, how do we reach the people in the basements? How do we reach the people that are self-isolating? How do we reach the people that are lost? And that was the big catalyst of the podcast. I was like, Rod, you got a chance to know me for a while. I'm not one of those people that like to just say, hey, let's just talk about it. I'm more, in the words I like to say now, full send. French fries, no pizza, and just go for it. And it's just about learning how to like help maybe agitate a person just enough where they would be willing to talk about some stuff and maybe get some help. So yeah, I'm ready to get into it when you are.
Well, I want you to remember that word agitate because that's sparked a whole bunch of questions in my brain. Because when you say that you want to agitate somebody, that's not typically taken on as like a positive, right? It's like, oh, but like I much said to you at the a couple of minutes ago was, I'm going to poke you a little bit, and maybe that's just probing a little bit. But that dialogue and those conversations I know have been extremely helpful for me and other people that we've had an opportunity to talk with. So thanks, but don't forget that.
Oh,
I wrote it down.
agitate is not a bad word. It just means that it's causing a disruption of friction.
Sure.
And friction doesn't have to be bad either. It just means that it's causing a discomfort of an area to look into and investigate.
It's like a freaking encyclopedia. I love it.
So full send, bud.
All right. Well, tell us your story, Will. Will's, where are you from, Will?
So I'm originally from Long Island, New York. I grew up in Suffolk County over in this city called Mastic. It was, I am one of 5 kids. My father had a previous marriage. I didn't have the best relationship with my half brother and half sister. Um, my other 2 siblings, that's pretty much what we knew. I grew up out there. My father was a Vietnam vet. Um, he went to a lot of different jobs trying to figure it out. Him, like a lot of other men that went over to Vietnam, created a substance problem of alcohol and gambling. And one of the things I remember hearing about gambling, it's not about the win, it's about the high and low and in between when the bet is there and the waiting to close, it's the excitement. And grew up with a mother that she did her best of what she could do at the time. It was my brother Alfie. He's an amazing dude. I remember actually wearing his clothes starting at pretty much about 12. Wearing the same shoe size I wear now. It's 13 at 13 years old. We didn't always have much, and the more that I learned about my childhood, it was how little Will actually felt about it, not about how I intellectualize it now and how I'm able to comfort or look at things a little bit differently.
How does you touched on your dad being a Vietnam veteran, and I know you'll get to that in your story as well. But how do you see your service and connection to your father? I mean, did you go in the military because your dad was in the military?
I went to the military because I was on the road going nowhere fast. And I remember I was hanging out with a crowd that was drinking most nights. Some people started sniffing coke and then boxing in the middle of the street. And academically, I really didn't care about school. And my buddy Jay went to the Army, and I was like, if you're going to go to the Army, I'm going to go to the Marine Corps because I'm going to be better than you.
One up you.
Yeah. And my dad going to the Navy in Vietnam, my father was really opposed to me joining the Marine Corps. He was like, he didn't want that to happen. At this time, my dad was medically disabled when I actually got to that point. And he was actually really nervous about my health and my well-being. At this time, my dad actually he didn't have all his outlets. He didn't have his friends at work or his acquaintances at work. He wasn't going to Mary's, which was the local pub that he would go to after work. So my father, if anything, wanted me to be away from it because also my grandfather was a World War II vet, and I believe my great grandfather, was a World War I vet.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a great legacy. Not one that always people are proud of, but to say that, you got to do what your father did and your grandfather did and your great grandfather did. Are you proud of that?
What I'm proud about the most is that I can understand why each one of them behaved the way they did. You sent me a message yesterday. It was more about like you're a person that's always trying to figure things out and learn about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to understand why my dad behaved the way he drank, or why he was with his hands, or the way that he wasn't able to talk. Like violence is the easiest way to compliance. It takes away from relationships, takes away from connection. But my grandfather was like that to my dad. And if I remember correctly, my great grandfather was like that to my grandfather. And we talk about generational trauma, but what we're doing is that we're emulating the people that we believe that love us. And they are loving us. They're loving us in the capacity that they know how to, because they didn't have the ability to hear different conversations, or at that time to normalize the emotional components. So when I say what I'm proud about is that I'm able to understand where they come from.
So all those things that between your family and what you experienced before you went in the military, how was school? Did you high school? Loved it. Straight A's.
Oh,
captain of the basketball team, quarterback of the football team, all the fun stuff.
No,
I mean, you're a big guy. You had to play football, right?
No. So my grades academically, I spent 5 years in high school, and I finished the last day of my 12th grade, and that's how I went to the Marine Corps. I didn't graduate actually until I came back from Iraq, and didn't graduate. It was I was more about chasing women at this time. I was more looking for outside validation from people. I was looking for attention at this time. I know it now, but at that time when I was a kid, I was looking to be seen, even if I was doing something wrong, just to be seen by somebody, and didn't really care. Didn't have much self-respect. So playing sports and stuff academically, we also didn't have the funding for it either. We didn't have the resources as far as actually traveling back and forth to school, so it wasn't that type of support system. It was based off of where we were economically and also emotionally at that time.
And you said that you're from like Massac County,
Mastic, New York, Suffolk County.
So that's New York City. You're from the high rise and the hustle and bustle of New York City.
No. As you know from being from being upstate New York now, it's out east. It's further out east. It's even Queens would be on Long Island, and it's just further out east. It's a little area over by Fire Island, or Smith Point Beach, and where we grew up was more in the lower social economics.
So you did awesome at school.
No. Told you I didn't go awesome at school.
No, would you say that was more your desire to do well, or your aptitude or ability, or just like you said, it was just more about screwing off and having fun at the time?
It was screwing off, having fun at the time. It's not about aptitude.
Hey, smart guy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's more of I didn't see a point.
Okay.
I didn't see a point. I was in a very helpless state at that time.
So I'm helpless. I'm having a tough time. I'm not graduating high school with all my friends. Some dude in a freaking nice coat and some shiny shit on his chest says, "Hey, come with me, buddy. Let's talk."
Pretty much. It was my way out of my situation.
So was that initiated by you, or did you like, "Hey,
So my buddy back then, Thomas Langan, he's the one that we started talking about the Marine Corps. His dad was Marine. He became a Marine. I came a Marine at roughly the same time. He went reserve. I went active duty. Another guy, Gerald, we went to school with. I actually totally forgot about that guy for a while. Actually, seen that dude in Iraq my first time over. Tom, actually, he helped me out a lot. He helped push me in a lot of ways. I was not traditionally would be a person that probably would be his friend at the time, but he saw something in me to help me out.
He helped you out, or you allowed him to help you out?
I think it was both.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, Wills, we're here. Marine Corps.
Yeah.
What time? When is this? 98, 99, 2010?
So I went in 2004 in August. Actually, it was supposed to go in August 8th, and then it got pushed back to August 30th because I didn't graduate. So I didn't think I was going in, smoked some weed. And then I told my recruiter pushed back my post like to when I was supposed to actually get sent out. And it was so it was August 30th when I went there. Actually, August 31st is when I went there. And when I went to Paris Island, where they make real Marines, and you know, didn't know what I was really signing up for. I remember actually seeing one of my drill instructors, Staff Sergeant McGowan, shove a K-bar through a foot locker because he just lost another one of his Marines that he trained overseas.
That's got to suck. That was in boot camp?
That was in boot camp when he actually did that.
Tell me more about that. How did that? You're in boot camp, right? Your world just got flipped upside down, literally. Yeah, it's got to be tough, man. So you're at boot camp. Your whole world just got flipped upside down. Will is not in his happy little comfortable environment anymore. Now you've been on the way to being transformed, indoctrinated, reprogrammed, whatever that means. It's 2004. We're well into Iraq, and things are kind of pumping, and you're at boot camp, and here's this guy that's trying to make you better, be a role model, teach you and learn new things, but also prepare you to be a warrior. And that dude's hurting.
Dude's hurt. Not really. So even though I observed it, I didn't really put it into the brain because I didn't realize how different it was. What was the real consequences behind it? I was just still trying to figure out what was happening in boot camp. Like they got us doing jumping jacks naked. They got us actually running around back and forth, getting yelled at, not sure where your head to your ass is. You're just trying to survive each day, and
not something you've never experienced before, right?
No.
How'd you handle that?
Well, let's just say that I felt a little bit of pain from them, but pain in a good way.
Did you get picked on?
No, not more than anybody else. It was just enough that you knew that you just take care of your shit.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's boot camp was like pretty much like the beginning where you start realizing that you just drink the Kool-Aid. You just became part of the cult. You think that you're Billy Badass now as far as being a Marine, and but that's not really where like it was interesting. Is so went there with MCT.
What's MCT?
Military Marine Corps Combat Training.
Okay.
And then after that, I went to 29 Palms for radio operator school. Awesome. I actually almost failed out of that class. And interesting fact was the person that was teaching me, his name was Sergeant Yavit at the time. I met him again when I was on a transition team, and I was teaching him about communication, which was actually interesting because he got out of the schoolhouse roughly right when you went through the transition team.
How'd that make you feel on the other side of it?
Made me feel like peers.
Awesome.
Yeah, made me feel like peers. It was just like at this time when I was actually getting there, I had my first tour underneath my belt. I got a Navy accommodation medal with a combat B at this time, and I was actually doing my second tour. I got told by my major if I actually get hurt, he's going to NJP me. Non-judicial punishment. And what he was saying,
military jail.
Yeah, he was saying it was because I was going way above and beyond what he thought I can do and what he wanted out of a communicator. I was a corporal doing a master sergeant billet, which is E4 doing an EA billet. And I joined that team with only 2.5 days worth of workup because I replaced a guy with a DUI.
That's a lot of responsibility.
It was that one I got a Navy accommodation medal for.
Just tell us more about that. That was your first tour?
That was my second. My first tour is the one that gunked me up, and it gunked up a lot of my other buddies.
Start at the beginning.
So joined this group of people, and
This was in country. Well,
no, I joined them before over
okay.
in Japan, and it was supposed to be three radio operators with them, and two of us replaced the three of them, and joined them up. Land up meeting some really cool dudes. Um, it was a bunch of individuals or different like platoons of people or groups of people that was not a platoon yet, not a team yet. And Mike Suskin, he and Matt Bishop did really well. Really, Mike Suskin did a really good job too.
Those were your two peers or the other radio operators that you were working with, or
No, it was,
okay.
Danielson was the corporal at the time. He was my senior. I was a lance corporal at the time when I joined. But Mike Suskin was a staff sergeant. Matt Bishop was a first lieutenant at the time. And they whipped the group of people into becoming a well-oiled unit and amazing people. So we went to country. It was 40 of us to start off with. It was two teams. And when there was a female that was with us, she right away, like pretty much tapped out. She got away. She went somewhere else. I'm not sure where she went. And then we're in country for a bit, and we were doing a rip with another platoon. What a rip means is left seat, right seat, driver, and you're jumping out, and you have different people that are teaching us what to look for. At this time, shit, I'm 20 years old, and 2021, and at the same time, I'm just like, huh, not sure what to see, and I remember the first time seeing an IED. I thought the thing was just be this catastrophic thing that you see on television. It wasn't, and it just got a little bit more intense from there. Like,
Was that the aftermath of an IED, or was that seeing a cardboard box on the side of the road that you know now would have vaporized, or historically has vaporized your friends,
it
right?
was a tire with a burlap sack with some wire sticking out. It was hooked up to an artillery round, a 155 round,
Mhm.
and yeah, I've actually lost a EOD guy to that, and one of the corpsmen were actually they weren't with us when that happened to them, but they ended up picking one up. One guy, Staff Sergeant Williams, pretty much Willie, took the blast, and the doc actually got hit in the neck with the shrapnel that went through him and got stuck in the throat protector. The But one of the biggest significant events for us, or for me, was April 2006. This is where everything pretty much closed down for me, closed down for a lot of my other guys, and it became like this little sacred spot. I thought if I told people about it, my secret, they would it would actually take away from the pain. And I didn't think that people would understand the pain that I went through. It was from clearing houses and then coming back and flipping around the convoy. And I was in pretty much the same spot 5 minutes before we flipped it around. And that's when we lost Chica. And that day haunts us all that was there. And but I'll say for myself, we rushed her back to a surgical shock trauma platoon. A lot of the mental video stayed in my head for quite some time. I didn't know how to process the emotion at this time. Emotions just pretty much turned off the switch. Physical violence equal compliance. Overwhelming force will stop any person in their tracks.
Hmm.
And it was actually a very dark time because what we cared about was only the people that were with us, not anybody else.
So you lost Chica.
Lost Chica.
How much time and during that with your team and all the people that you were working with, that same crew that you were out with, what did you guys do? Did you get a chance to mourn that? Yeah, obviously you just lost a friend, right? And for all of the team members and service members that may or may not have been through this, in the moment, it's right back to work, right?
just right back to work. It was just we got her back there. Called it in. Or actually, when I called it in, I remember I had to stay emotionally composed, calling in for special effects so that they're able to pull over stuff and be able to ship it back. At this time, like we went back to the hooch for a second and then we blown right back out again. We had to finish the mission, and there was no warning. There was no warning at all. There was just, you keep going. Everything that happens, you keep going. And it was a line I remember hearing: there's a time to mourn and there's a time to do a job. And we didn't mourn then, and I sure as hell did not know how to mourn with other people.
Shit. Knowing what you know now and what you've experienced, do you think that was true advice? Do you think you could still operate? Do you think you could still do your job and still understand that you lost a friend? Not necessarily stop what you're doing and, we got a mission to do and have a funeral, but can you have that in your head? Can you mourn? Can you move forward and do what you have to do, knowing what you've known now? Or is it, hey, this is what you got to do in the moment? Suck it up, move forward.
It really is suck it up, move forward. It got to the point where we started getting different times, like almost all of us just emotionally shut down to what was happening. We get rounds coming in at us, calling waters. It was just, you get rounds, get whizzed by, you shoot back. You think about it, you don't have the time to be able to process it. It's more of, you got to do a job. Like, there was not this luxury of being able to sit and process. And I use the word luxury, and even though it doesn't sound like a luxury, we didn't have that. Like, we were always go, 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 go. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that a lot. But at the same time, all we kept doing was actually just putting more and more shit on top of it. And when we put more and more shit on top of it, fuck, we don't know our ass from our elbows. And by the time we actually leave country, we're all full blown alcoholics before we can even actually touch the bottle.
Amazing. And you're like already looking forward to that really good dinner. You're looking to that glass of whiskey. You're looking to celebrate your friends, mourn a little bit, all that other stuff. Now being on, again, the other side of that is you're doing all that while you're still there.
Yeah.
You get that little bit of break, continue your mission, continue your deployment. I'm sure there's probably lots of other things that stuck with you through that first deployment. Obviously, losing one of your teammates is gonna burn, but I gotta imagine that there's a pile of other things that stuck with you. What were those things?
So a lot of them actually became very hazy over time. It took quite some time to like take it apart. We joke about I'm up, you see me, I'm down. That really saved my life. Or I saved a few of our lives.
What's for our non-service members or grunts or ground pounders or Marines or what does that mean?
So I'm up, you see me, I'm down. As I stand, I start running. I'm up, you see me, I'm down. But during the time when you see me, I'm actually getting ready to drop. I'm down. I'm up. That means I'm ready to get on my feet. I'm not just standing. I'm running while I'm just standing. And then I'm up, you see me, I'm down. What it is it's a tactic that a lot of people started to learn to engage in and engage in combat so that it disrupts where people are able to get the sights on. The more that you stand up, the larger the silhouette is. If you're moving, it also makes it hard for them to be able to predict exactly where you're stopping. And if you're actually laying down, it makes it easier for them to just be able to hone in for more of an accurate shot.
It was kind of bad guy whack-a-mole, right?
Bingo.
All right. In that example, you're the good guy, trying not to be the ball that's getting whacked, right?
So that's a great question. I'm the good guy or I'm the bad guy. It's I've thought about this for years, and this is not always fully agreed on. But at this time when I started really processing it, I was just another poor man's kid that was expendable, and I was more of a cog in the wheel for we call it the military complex. And if I got killed over there, here's $400,000 going to my family. Oh, that's a big fucking thing. Great job. But then you also have the same things that happen over there with people that are engaging us. And both sides doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just we both were at war with each other. And we didn't know each other personally. We didn't know each other at all. And I know this can actually be conflicting with some people and it might make them upset, but this is just my truth. And it took me a while to be able to process that the anger, the animosity, the resentment. There was a lot of survivor guilt there. There was a lot of grief. There was a lot of moral injury there. And it was hard.
So Chica's lost. Did that numb you for the rest of your tour, or was that just the number one thing that just, you got a hole ripped in your heart, right?
So that's a great question. Was I numbed? Can you just let me?
Yeah, absolutely.
You asked if I was numbed. I was numbed for years. I know actually I was numbed for years. I was with some really good guys. Um, Alcohol became my best friend, Mr. Jack. Four Locos when I really wanted to feel spicy. And but it was known for the deployment. I'll tell you something I found, and I remember this. I was going over to BAS, and it's where the medical is for when we get the evaluation. And
So you're home now?
back in Okinawa, and I'm on my way walking over there, and I heard doop, and I dove and I hit the grass as far as I could.
Sound like mortar or something?
Yeah. And I just hit the ground, and all of a sudden, I start looking around. I feel like I got grass on my hands. I'm like, I wonder what these people are going to think about this guy. Oh, this guy's a fucking complete dipshit, just diving into the ground. And what I realized, now this is what PTSD is. And I answered the questions honestly, and like, hey, you got PTSD. I was not educated about this. It was more of
So you went to BAS because you weren't feeling well, or it was just like
post-deployment evaluation.
Gotcha. Okay.
And when they did the post-deployment evaluation, they're like, yeah, you got PTSD. And to me, I thought it was like the common cold. So actually, when I left that unit and I went to a different place, I thought it was good. And then all of a sudden, they started doing drill, which drill is actually moving rifles and marching and doing all this other shit that I didn't really like at all. And I ended up freaking out on one of my sergeants. And I told him that this is how you get people killed. This is how, and this is in platoon. And normally you're supposed to be, whoever's leading the platoon, you're just locked up.
Sure.
I lost my shit. They didn't get mad at me. They actually sent me over to go get mental health. And then within
Was this the rest of your team with you, Will, or this was just you and him and you barked at him and he's like, all right, buddy, come on. We're going to go for a little walk. Be a little talking to here, or like Will was insubordinate and blew up?
It was in the comp platoon. And it was definitely insubordinate. But I didn't get treated as insubordinate because at this time they saw I had a NAM with a combat V, which gave me a lot more grace with my tongue with people. I was a hard worker, and they saw I was a hard worker, and they knew this was out of character, and they also understood that, or from what I thought they understood was, I just came back from a fucking shitty place. I'm coming to a bunch of people I don't know that well, and I don't want you guys to die. And my mind was, we got to start to learn how to train to fight here, not actually train to fucking be toy soldiers.
So that was it. That was the first time. That was Will's back from Iraq. We're in Okinawa. We settled back in, and hey, guess what, bud? High five. Great job. Welcome home. Now you're fucked up. You got PTSD, dude.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What does that mean to you? You said everybody's got it, or maybe they don't. How was that displaying for you? What? Obviously, you barked at somebody that is in a position of authority, and probably somebody that you respected, probably somebody that you work with, and that in the time. But you've been diagnosed now. You've had some experiences. You may be feeling it, not feeling it, but now it's impacting your career. Now it's impacting your life.
So alcohol became a really good friend.
Mm.
Friend is actually I shouldn't use the correct term, but it was the outlet that I knew how to use because at this time I still was not mourning my friend's loss. I was not mourning an identity. I was not really processing what I went through. I didn't process how my relationships with my family changed because between this and when I got back from Iraq, I went home for about a month on leave, and I wanted to be near my family, but I felt like such a monster that I'd end up meeting this girl that she went to Stony Brook University. She was doing pre med. Her name was Muni Chahal, and I ended up staying with her pretty much the whole time. Um, she was Indian. She was from India, so was her family, and she would go back and forth. And I pretty much used her to hide away from my family.
Mm.
But so at this time, I was hiding my inner emotions and my inner person.
Do you know why? Were you embarrassed?
Back then or now?
Back then.
Back then, I had no idea. Besides, just the best way I could describe it was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And I felt like Mr. Hyde had his hands steering ahead more than Dr. Jekyll.
Cool. Well, now then.
Now it was, I was ashamed. It was, I felt lost. I felt like it was not part of society. I was struggling with the fact of thou shalt not kill, but then okay, it's okay in the military and the Marines. It's
Was that a strong part of your faith in the past?
it was something I listened to quite a bit, and I felt like it was definitely a different part that I struggle with because if people ask me, I'm like, what am I going to tell them? Like, are you going to judge me for it?
Mm.
Do you actually care? What do you want to know? What is your gain? And during this whole time, I spin myself up and had a hard time being around people and sort of avoiding people so that I can just have a little bit of peace.
Were you just looking for that? Was that isolating well, or was that a long time, or was that you didn't want to be questioned, right? You didn't want to be reminded. You didn't want to be triggered. And I hate that fucking word. uh,
You know, even at this time, I actually started hanging out with other people so I could be away from my friends and family because the innocent Will was gone. And the one that they knew, I didn't want them to know the new one. I didn't want them to know the adjusted version because, fuck, who is this dude?
were you embarrassed? Scared?
Both.
Both? Shit. How long were you home after you got home? So that was home from Iraq, visiting family, friends.
So I went to Okinawa for about a week in between, and then I went over to home for about a month. And then I went back to Japan, was there for several more months.
Back to Okinawa.
Back to Okinawa. And then I went over to CLR 15, Combat Logistics Regiment 15. And then I got sent out to Advisor Training Group,
Okay.
where I did a border transition team.
Nice. So that was back in Iraq?
I went back to Iraq with a border transition team, yeah.
So you just went to Iraq. You got back. You spent a month home.
Yep, I went to Japan for a few months,
Mhm.
and then I went to California for about maybe a month or 2 months, and then I was back over.
Shit. Was that like Marine Corps was like, hey, Will, you did such an awesome job. We're gonna send you back. We need you to go kick ass and take names and do all that stuff. Or what was the?
It was less than a 12-month turnaround, and
That's unusual, right?
it's kind of, but I felt normal overseas.
Hmm.
I felt normal there. I felt like it was safe for me. It was safe for other people that I cared about.
Where are you keeping them safe from?
Me.
It's got to be a hard thing to recognize.
It was like just overwhelmed with choices. at this time, chasing women left, right, and center when I was in California, or it was just looking for anything to be able to escape the heavily intrusive thoughts.
So you asked to go back?
Yeah, I begged to go back. And that's when I got sent over to advisor training group, and yeah, it was probably one of the best things to happen for me in that moment. I actually had to sign a waiver with a chief saying I'm good to go, which is not very common because I was diagnosed with PTSD at this time, and I'm like, Chief, I just need to go. And I remember looking him straight in the eyes. I said, I do not want somebody else to experience what I went through.
That's noble.
It was a way out. It felt like part of me died back then.
A good part? A bad part? I mean, sometimes we go back and try to kill parts of ourselves that we don't like, right? Reinvent ourselves. In this instance, for Will, it was a tragedy and a loss of a friend and war, right?
Because it was war, and like we got lit up by a 50 cal by an army gunner and the lead truck, and I was in the lead truck. It was in the middle of the night, and
Friendly fire deal?
friendly fire. We got I was in between mortars and artillery going off because we couldn't get communication because communication was being blocked by our own people. It was being used for like SEAL Team 5 when we were over by the OK Corral when we were doing house clearing over there. It was just different. It was very a different atmosphere, and the innocence was gone.
So you rolled up to Iraq again. We're on time too. And now you know what to expect.
Not really for this one. I thought I did. This one was a lot different. Like I never was trained with an M9, but I was issued an M9 and M4.
What's that?
M9 is a pistol.
Okay.
M4 is pretty much is a M16 carbine. Shoots 5.56 rifle, assault rifle, and learned a lot about different stuff because my first tour I was a radio operator with SAW. This time I'm a radio operator with M4 and M9, and embedded with Iraqis, living with them, and very different type of atmosphere. It was only 11 of us. We were pissing in tubes, shitting in bags, I was training them how to do telecommunications, also with military tactics. We had 3 interpreters with us. We would just train them. And it was a very interesting time because now I'm not doing the assaulting or kicking in doors. I'm the one that's teaching these people to be self-sustainable. And it's usually more for leadership that's been in these type of roles for a while. And I'm just this fucking dude that is just like got put on this team because of 2.5 days worth of workup because someone got a DUI. Originally being threatened to be kicked off the team for any reason, and then all of a sudden being loved by the guys I worked with.
Awesome. But a different connection, right? Is
a very different connection.
Did you feel more like, hey, that was your new family or your team, or obviously that I think as dudes we seek that in the camaraderie and the communities that we support, but also it's like I got my group of porcupines, but they're not going to get too close to each other because they might poke one of each other's eye out, right? Silly analogy, but that's your new family, right?
It's my new family. It was a group of guys that it was just dudes that we rely on because, like I said, it was only 11 of us. There was another mid team was there as well, but we go out. We only had 3 gun trucks, running up comm, learning about community, like the data house. I didn't know. I had to learn about that on the fly, which is extremely hard. And the guys that I worked with, it was a very surreal part of the Marine Corps that I experienced because it was not always so serious. There was one time I chased around Gunny Griffith in my boxers around the fob, and as a corporal chasing around an E7, and he was a former DI, that's a huge no-no. But nothing happened of it. If anything, they just cracked jokes and called him the P word. So it was interesting.
That's as you made it through the continued parts of your tour on your second trip to Iraq, knowing what you experienced on the first trip, you said this is where the wheels started to come off the box, right? This was the catalyst, the thing to start going into that. You're well into your career. You've been diagnosed with PTSD. You said, "Hey guys, I'm fucked up, but I'll go back, and I want to go back because I feel normal there." The experiences that you experienced on the first tour and the second one, how do you think that played into your performance as a Marine? And do you think it hindered you? And do you think, as in that leadership role, it provided you a different set of tools to help the new guys or gals that are coming in?
So it definitely helped me with tools. When I came back from my second time over there as an E4 corporal, I was actually teaching sergeants how to do certain parts of communication, which is usually the other way around. Sergeants are usually the ones that are going forward. I actually checked into this unit, and Master Sergeant, he was actually from Long Island, New York, too, over in Deer Park. He calls me in. He said, "Hey, Corporal Fruin." He's like, "I heard you're getting ready to get out." He asked me some questions. I told him about what I did. We then bullshitting for about 20 minutes. He told me to send somebody else in there. And what originally I was supposed to get told was I was supposed to go cut grass for the rest of the remainder of my enlistment because he knew I was getting out. But so he sent this other person that had been pregnant 3 times since she's been in the Marine Corps. She missed 3 different deployments because of it. And she had me go back in there and we started bullshit. And he said, "Hey, Fruin," he was like, "Why are you not staying in?" And I said, "Master Sergeant." I said, "Aren't you getting out?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "So why is it good enough for me, but not good enough for you?" He was like, "I spent my time here." He said, "The Corps has changed." I said, "The Corps has changed very, very quickly for me in the last, at this time, it was 3 years, 3.5 years. And he had me teaching people how to use a Blue Force tracker, which is very similar to what the cops use nowadays. It's like a screen, a laptop, a hard disk with a GPS and be able to communicate back and forth. Um, Also doing data, doing communications from telecommunications, HF, SHF, EHF. Um, and I was training a lot of these other guys when they were getting ready to go. And the reason I didn't do a third and then extend and do a third one. My brother pushed back his wedding for me to be there. And so I knew I needed to get out. But I almost went back with another border transition team. And actually, before I almost left country, I almost switched over to a MIT team, a military transition team. And I almost went with them. But I knew my brother had pushed back his wedding. And even though they told me, "Hey, I can get you home by August 1st. And I said, "In all disrespect, sir," I said, "I don't believe you because it's the Marine Corps. It's the Marine Corps needs. It's not my needs." And at this time, I learned how to be able to speak very frankly with people a lot more senior to me. And it was definitely a different atmosphere.
Do you think that was due to your experience, just your personality? Do you think that maybe 2 years ago that wasn't the same will, but because of what you experienced, you're like, "Oh, fuck it. What do I got to lose besides my life and my friends? Maybe I can have a different conversation at a different level with somebody and get my message across differently." Or was it just, "Fuck it. What do I got to lose?" Right?
It was, well, I got used to being around a lot of leadership. Again, I was a corporal and I was the lowest ranked guy on the team. We had 1 major, 2 lieutenants, 2 gunnies, 1 HM doc, 2 sergeants, and 1 staff sergeant. And I was the lowest ranking dude, and but I am just becoming like friends in a lot of ways, and kind of actually looked at a lot of officers very differently than what I was used to because I'm like, you guys put your fucking pants on the same way I do. You guys put your boots on the same way I do.
She's got a
And
different job.
yeah, like my job is to respect your shit. Your job is actually let me know what I need to do. But my job is not for you to be micromanaged because otherwise I'm not doing my job and you're not doing yours.
Did you make it home for your brother's wedding?
I did. I did. I made it to my brother's wedding. My brother actually made sure I didn't drink the night before. He asked me to stay over at his friend's house, and he lied to me about that. But then it was just I understood why, because at this time I had a very heavy hand for alcohol.
Didn't your brother recognize that?
Oh yeah.
How long you been home at this point? Obviously, just got home, or he knew
No, just
from in between,
a
or
few months now.
okay. So you got out. Will says, "Hey, I did this. Check mark. Life experience over. I got my GI Bill. Now I'm gonna go be um, a student, a perpetual learner, a contributing member of the workforce. What was next? What?
So everything I tried after the Marine Corps for a while, it was continuous failure.
Hmm.
It was a lot of failing. It was I tried going to school, was getting Fs, Ds, Fs, maybe a C here, which was high for me back then. One semester I got 3 Fs and 1 W, withdrawal. And at this time I was tried relationships, couldn't hold down a relationship, couldn't hold down work. It was just I was a clusterfuck. I was a soup sandwich.
Let's I didn't know you then,
No.
but describing your time through high school, didn't really enjoy it. Didn't really put the effort forward. Went in the Marine Corps. Like, oh, Will's a fucking rock star. You're a good Marine. Getting stuff done. Doing the job. Making people proud of you. Winning medals. Freaking doing the shit. You get out and it's like, uh-oh, I'm reverting. Did you find yourself falling back, or was this the new Will?
It was the will that, again, it goes back to I didn't know how to talk about things. I was emotionally stuck. I tried going to the VA. They gave me a handful of medication. Felt like a zombie. At this time, I was drinking a lot and smoking quite a bit of pot, chasing women. Um, I just couldn't do anything right. I ended up actually being home for a couple of months. Got into an argument with my dad, got thrown out of the house. Ended up moving in with my brother, sleeping on the couch for months. I had a lot of people that cared about me. I had a lot of relationships that failed because they were trying to care about me a lot. And at that time, I didn't care about myself.
Pretty lonely spot.
Extremely lonely.
How did you? Obviously, your family, your friends, people are reaching out. They're like, "Hey, dude, hey, you might be a little fucked up." You're already like, "I know I'm a little fucked up," but
I tried to go training to go to the Navy SEALs, and then I also was looking at going to the Green Beret and to the Army National Guard, and I was looking at that because I just felt dead.
thought that would fix it. Get back to what you know, what you're good at.
Yeah, get back to what I'm good at.
You have any family or friends that you told about that? Did they know you were doing those things? Obviously, you went to school. School's like, it's not really working out. People see you that you care about, friends, family, kind of fumbling through stuff. But Will knows what he can fricking rock out, and he can do what he can do. Right? Did you let him in on that? Like, I think I want to go back, and they're like, probably not, bud.
So I mentioned it to a couple of people, but at that time, I really believed everybody thought I was full of shit because I couldn't do anything right. I couldn't hold down a job. Like every Thursday, I would walk down to the brewery up the road, start drinking, go up to the gas station, grab some 22s, a Corona, walk up to the brewery after that, just get freaking drunk. It was just a shit show of a cycle I had. I was just there. I was existing.
You've been home for a little bit now.
Yeah.
How much are you in touch with, social media and all those things? We're talking 2004, 5, 6, 7. Social media is pretty early there. I know when I got out of the service is trying to keep in touch with my team members and teammates and that huge network of awesome people that I got a chance to serve with. How did you keep did you keep in touch with those folks?
Not really well. So I got back out in 2008 and then out of the service and then didn't keep in touch with them that well. I felt a lot of shame. I felt a lot of shame about where I was. We had a few anniversaries to my buddy's death. I didn't show up to any of them because I felt some shame. I felt like, what am I supposed to do? Uh, it was just so at that time I was very alone. I was very alone. Like I said, it was try relationships with women, um, but couldn't hold on to them. But a big catalyst of change was actually when I met my ex-wife, Lindsay. Lindsay was a very special human. She saw something in me that I didn't know how to see in myself. I was self-sabotaging left, right, and center, but she had me start working at her horse farm. And I would work one day, didn't work 3 days, work one day, didn't work 2 days, and I just kept repeating. And for a while, that's just how I started to kind of rehabilitate. It was her and her family. Her father is an awesome dude. Her mother's no longer with us, but she was a beautiful soul. Lindsay was probably one of the best humans I've ever met in my life. And I couldn't hold down a job, and they kept me around. And it was her birthday, and July 7th of 2014 is when I actually had a suicide attempt. And it's about less than 3 months later, she had a plan, advised to leave, and I totally understood.
Can I take you back a second?
Sure.
So, bent thing, be Lindsay, working on the horse farm, things are doing. Sounds like you know you're struggling. The people around you know you're struggling, but you went from sounds like doing all right to a suicide attempt. How'd you end up there? What else came apart?
You know, self-sabotaging, because I felt better to self-sabotage. I felt better to be alone. I felt better to be stuck. And I realize it now. I needed words of affirmation. I needed to be connected. And I just felt like I felt so lost. And it was her birthday. And it's just so selfish to say, but I felt like all the eyes are away from me, even though this is the person I'm supposed to be supporting, the person I'm supposed to be caring for. And I'm like, what about me? What about me? And that's when I did that attempt. And I just felt so lost.
Thank goodness, but you didn't complete suicide. Obviously, that opened up a whole set of new challenges, right?
Yeah.
What's next?
So stayed in the house. Lindsay actually rented a house out for I think 1 or 2 more months so I could be able to find a place.
So you guys, hey, we're gonna take some time apart. They're gonna separate. Is that what I'm hearing?
So I came home October 1st and from school, and it was raining that day, and all of her stuff was out of the house by the time I came home from school.
Shit.
Everything. I came home to just my stuff being in the house.
Did you guys have a big fight, blowout, or anything like that, or just came home and you're like, oh?
So it was it was planned for several weeks, and I found out from my landlord, and he kind of said some stuff, and I didn't go aha or anything. I just listened, and I was like, "Oh shit, really cool." So this was planned for a while, and so about 10 days after the October 1st, I was actually thinking about committing myself to the hospital, and when she heard about that, she wanted to come back and she wanted to support. At this time, she was expecting for me to change and just have these patterns created. And what happened is that she's like, "Nope, I'm good." So my 30th birthday, which was that year, I spent it alone. And New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, I got issued divorce papers. And when I talked to her, I said, the only thing I really want you to do is look me in the eyes and tell me this is what you want. And she did. At this time, I had it notarized, and I handed her over the divorce papers. She didn't want anything from me, and I didn't want anything from her. And And I'm grateful for the time I spent with her. I'm also grateful for her leaving the way she did.
Obviously, that anytime that you have a change in your relationships or you lose somebody like that you care about, obviously, in that instance, maybe it was the right thing for both of you, and you recognize that on the other side of that now. But that created a huge wound, right? So now you got a couple more. You got a couple more boo boos. Will, how are you managing them?
Hmm. So actually, I didn't. So right before that happened, before October, I noticed I've been drinking a lot, and I said I'm gonna take 30 days off.
Oh, drinking.
Yeah, so I did.
How much
And
were you drinking? You say a lot, like.
so at one point, I was drinking a half a bottle a night. I used video games to say I wasn't drinking alone. So I had those double gold cups, and I had big old pours in there, and some ginger ale, Canadian dry. And so I didn't eat for 60 hours after she left. I didn't drink for probably about 45 days straight. And at this time, she helped me out with getting TDUI, temporary disability and unemployable. So I was able to survive off of that. I got a job working at Calverton National Cemetery. I'm still living in a house that she left. Um, Started renting out subrooms to my buddies. That's where I met Bobby and I met Vlad. Um, so I'm getting on my feet, doing a little bit better, working at the cemetery, starting getting bored because it was just so monotonous. I felt like the management didn't care about us. To me, it was more like, hey, you're expendable, you're expendable, you're expendable.
Where have we heard this before, Will?
Yep. And when I actually hurt my shoulder, my right shoulder, from jackhammering open graves because of how deep the frost line was, the director tried to shame me and shame other people for getting injured during this really cold winter. And I was like, cool. And I ended up getting a job somewhere else at doing carpentry. Then I did that for probably about a season. And then I started working for an oil burner place. So at this time, I bought a house. Um, I have two of my buddies living with me. I got a revolving door of dudes coming in my house because we're just working on the house, drinking, and they're smoking a weed in the backyard and just working. And it just made sense.
Were those people that just kind of fell into your life, or did you go handpick those acquaintances or friends? You allowed them into your life. You allowed them into your house, right? How'd that happen?
Well, we all were working at the cemetery,
Okay.
and most of us were Marines by background.
Hmm. Did you
And
know that at the time, or
yeah,
just kind of afterwards?
after when we were at the cemetery, we found out most of us were Marines, most of us were combat, uh, and it was just easier to be around because fuck, we're all fucked up. We don't want to actually talk about our shit. We're all fucked up, and it made it just that much simpler to not talk about things, to get drunk with each other, and just get shit done.
How long did that go on for?
Well, that went on for a bit. I met this other awesome person. Her name is Christina, and well, Christina and I, we met on Tinder. It was just meant to be one of those Tinder hookups. Ended up being a 3-year relationship, and I was an absolute douchebag during that time. I was really inconsiderate about a lot of stuff, and I know it sounds like I'm beating myself up, but it was at the time that we both didn't know what we wanted. And I remember actually pulling back from her when I was actually doing carpentry. And then we landed up actually coming back, landed up renovating an RV with her, traveled the country for 3 months, but this time I was super anxious, wasn't able to really always enjoy things. And finished up my house, and we finished up her house. She moved in with me. And a lot of times the guys, like the dudes started actually not being around as much. They were being around for Vlad or Bobby, but not as much as frequently. But I ended up actually traveling the country, and we ended up buying a house over in Colorado. I actually rented a house in Colorado, then we bought one. And at this time, COVID happened. Depression started kicking in pretty good, smoking pot every night. And felt like I didn't have a life. I felt like I was existing. And 2020 happened, and my dad, the last time I saw him alive, I didn't realize it at the moment, but it was like the last time I saw my friend alive overseas, and it just brought back this fucking gremlin, this evilness. And I was trying a bunch of different things just to survive, and then my dad died, and then my oldest brother died, and then it was my relationship was really done, and I thought she was flirting with somebody. She wasn't. She was just being a good human, and I just got completely hammered. And it was January 14th of 21 where I grabbed my shotgun, and I remember this conversation where she said, "You're acting fucking crazy." And I said, "I'll show you fucking crazy." And she's trying to fight with me and trying to take the shotgun out of my hands. And I'm not a little person, and it's not usually like many people would win when they're trying to fight me on certain things.
I can see that.
So it was fucking snow out. It was icy, and at the time I didn't know if birdshot would kill me, and that's why I didn't pull the trigger, because when I googled it, it wasn't definitive. But then I found out the way I was going to do it, it was the most lethal round to use at the time. So the cycle continued. It just took about 6 years, 6.5 years, for it to happen again.
It's interesting, Will, is as you go through your story, obviously alcohol, and you're trying to work through your stuff and the jobs and all the things that encompasses life, and trying to figure out what life is as we continue to move forward. But I didn't hear anything. Obviously, alcohol is a substance to make you feel better. But as far as mental health, the first time I heard you say anything was that anxiety with your trip with Christina. That was kind of the first time I heard you say something that tied to specific. All right, what's this thing that you're now feeling that maybe you haven't felt before? Maybe you have, but this was different.
So I'll tell you about my mental health journey. Like I said, I saw a counselor when I had my first tour. Then I saw a counselor again when I went to a different unit. But then when I went back, I didn't think that they understood. Years of medicine, they didn't understand. I remember sitting across from people, and I just sat on the couch, fixed me, fixed me. And then there was this one Army combat vet that was a Vietnam vet, and he was a social worker, and he was one of the first people to penetrate that wall. And it was a lot of times just sitting in that seat, not and totally distrusting them, totally distrusting these people. And then another amazing, beautiful soul. Her name was Tara Brunswick. She was my old social worker. And I would see her, and then I'll stop, and I'll see her, and then I'll stop. And I'm like,
so this was you backing off on the appointments, not going?
Oh, fucking! I was like the epitome of
bad patient.
Oh, bad patient. Like, we'll set one up. Yeah, I'm not going to be there. And set one up, I'm not going to be there. Then I'd be like, "Hey, Tara, I'm really down. You got time?" And she would take her lunch break, or she'll take and also her admin time, and make it time for me. And she was meant to only do VVC, and I would actually drive out there and sit with her. And for the first 10, 15 minutes, I would talk to her about her room and about why this stupid fucking cord went across her room and they put duct tape over it. And just because I didn't know how to talk. And then she was one of the first people that allowed me to be like a wounded animal, actually accepting help at my own time. And I was grateful for her. I was really, really grateful for her. And she's a person that got me into the RTP back in Long Island, because at the time, after I had my suicide attempt, Denver didn't have any slots open for a residential program.
Yeah, so let's go back to that. I know because you have, but you had that. You're standing there, sitting down. You got the shotgun deal, and Christina's like, "All right, you want to see crazy?" Mm-hmm. What happened?
So
still here?
I did. I actually, the next day after I woke up on the barrel of the shotgun, I talked to some cops because my sister Christina called my sister. My sister called the cops on me because Christina was fucking petrified if she called the cops on me.
Afraid of consequences from you. Yeah.
And she was petrified. And it was I ended up talking to the cops, and the female sergeant comes out and she's like, "Hey, can I pat you down for weapons?" She pats me down, and I said, "This is so gentle compared to what I used to do." And we kind of chuckled, and I said, "Hey, would you like to check my pickup truck?" Because I'm like, I know why I'm here. I know I just had this.
Mhm.
I want you to feel safe. And so she goes and checks my pickup. She's like, "You sure?" I said, "Yeah." And she just does a really quick overview and
Box, yeah.
nothing. And then I'm sitting in the back of an EMT vehicle. And at this time, Teller County has this thing called a MAP team, which is for mental health like assistance program, where the EMTs are trained. And I'm talking to a psychiatrist through the like a BBC, a video connect, and she already has her mind up. Like, hey, this guy's fucked up. Boom, we're gonna throw him in there. Very straight to the point.
Throw them in where? What do you mean? They're going to take you to the rubber room?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
And during this time, there was a switchover between the police. So it was no longer the female sergeant; it was a male sergeant, and there was a another patrol officer. The male sergeant happened to be another Marine, and the patrol officer was an Army veteran. And the Marine Corps guy, he starts asking me questions about where I was. We started talking. We were in country. We were in theater, which is like we were in Iraq at the same time. We were talking about different parts of where we were. And he did an amazing job de-escalating it. His buddy, on the other hand, wanted to go hands-on. At this time, I'm getting anxious. I feel like I'm about to go to this fucking place, get a white coats. And I ended up talking to the the EMT guys, like the paramedic was like, "Hey, if you hand over your firearms, you don't have to go in." I said, "Okay," and asked him, and the sergeant was like, "Yeah." If I said, "Do you mind if I come out of the house with it? Because I don't want you guys to shoot my dog." But I'm going to rewind real quick. One of the things I told him when I was anxious, and I told him, I said, "Hey, dude, if I'm going in tonight, we're going to get hurt tonight."
Mhm.
And it was, he understood it was nothing personal towards him. He understood that I was just scared out of my mind. I was alone. I was scared. I was lost. And good.
Where I was going to ask, were you still under the influence at the time?
No, I was pretty much sober at this time.
Hungover, probably.
Even at this time, my adrenaline was kicking in so much. Land up, fast and forward. He followed me to my house. I come outside with the shotgun and my rifle, holding them by the barrels, nowhere near the fingers. So one police officer was to my 9 o'clock when I exited the door. One was right to my 11:45, just not my 12 o'clock. Handed over, and the sergeant says, "Here's my card." He said, "If you're feeling like this, man, I'd rather have a cup of coffee with you any day than actually have you in this type of situation." And I'm so grateful that he was there. I'm so grateful that the paramedic was there. And then when I got home and I laid in that bed, Christina, with her left hand, touched the right side of my back, and I knew my relationship was over. And woke up the next day, and remember I was putting paper up because I know that she wanted to paint. I know the relationship's over. We're going to start painting, so we're going to just end the house. She's like, "I just need to leave."
Mhm.
And I land up talking to my buddy. He was a former Army Ranger. He was a captain. He did about 3 or 4 tours overseas. And he told me, he said, "Will," his name is Nick. And he told me, "Will," he said, "nobody's coming to save you." And I really look up to Nick. And Nick is an amazing dude, and I'm lucky to know him. And that's when I decided to call the suicide hotline and say, "Hey, I need help. I need to get into," and told her where I was. She asked me if I needed a ambulance escort, and I said, "No, I'll just drive." And she said, "Sure." I ended up calling my ex-wife. My ex-wife talked to me for about an hour that day, getting me over to comfortable over there. And I forgot to call her up when I got to the Denver hospital, and she was panicking because I'm like fragile at this time, and the psych ward was probably the best thing to happen for me.
So you called the number, said, "Hey guys, I'm jacked up, need help." Found your way to the front door and said, "I'm here."
Yeah.
Now what?
So they put me in. So if anybody's been in many emergency rooms, they have special rooms for people that are in mental health crisis, and the chairs are usually bolted to the ground. The wires are hooked up. Um, Everything is fixed in place, and so it makes it very hard to become combative with the instruments in that room. And so they had me go into that room. That's when I was evaluated, handed over my clothes and my stuff to them, and then they escorted me up to the facility that I stayed in for the next week.
Take a break.
No, I'm good.
Okay. That's it.
Then
You're in the door.
I'm in the door, and that's when I actually had the chance to really reflect on where I was. I remember watching everybody watching TV and just eating, and I just was sitting and reading, and I was like, "What the fuck did I do?" I'm like, "If this doesn't work, I'm done. I'm gonna kill myself." I was like, "I got a $15,000 credit card limit." I'm like, if I end my life, I don't have to worry about shit. Everything doesn't matter. And went to the hospital. I was still there. I was still in the hospital, and get anxious, and had a few conversations with my ex. She's watching the dogs. Psychiatrist took a liking to me. We had some good conversations. Then he convinced me to stay for another day, so I did. And I went back, and I was staying in the downstairs apartment of the house, and had a hard time eating, had a hard time with a lot of stuff, and did some volunteer work. And I was like, this is when we were doing the vaccination for COVID, and I was kind of hoping that it killed me. I was at that mindset. And it's like I called around. I got in touch with Tara Brunswick from Long Island, and she was the one that got me to the residential.
Awesome. So now you're did a couple days, not feeling better, right? Now you're like, now what's next? Still not satisfied, not clear. Next step is I'm gonna go for the long ride.
Yeah. Long ride, which actually happened to be 13 weeks. I went there on March 1st, and I stayed there until the day before Memorial Day, on Memorial Day weekend. And Dr. David Gately, one of the psychologists over there, brilliant man. He helped me understand a lot about what I was going through. We did cognitive processing therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. The chaplain there was absolutely amazing, but unfortunately she passed away because of illnesses. And I was so worried about it being 13 weeks. And my buddy Nick was like, this is just a short period of your life. It's a short time of your life, and it's just going to be quick. And 13 weeks flew by.
When's the last time you went through something that was 13 weeks long?
It was called the Great Place Paris Islands. So after processing, April 8th was when I lost my buddy, and spending hours, days, weeks in that time, and decoupling the emotion from the memory and understanding why I felt, what behaviors I created, understood about why I was behaving and the patterns I was behaving, and not feeling, and I wanted to leave there a couple times, and he was like, "No, Will, this is where the work begins." And him and he helped me through a lot of shit. And when he helped me through a lot of shit, it was just like, fuck. And now I'm like, who am I? I'm like, I'm going to be moving. He's like, dude, you don't have to move. It's like, you can ask to buy the other part of the house. There's other things you can do. And I was like, she's doing me this favor. I just want to get this done with. I'm the one that screwed it up. And needless to say, it was when I went through it. When I went through the hospital stint. I stayed in Colorado for about a couple of weeks, actually for a couple of months. And the day I came home, I tried to turn my truck over, and my battery was dead. And I waited for to call the taxi. I had to wait. No Ubers to where I lived. And then when I was like, what's going on? They're like, oh, yeah, everything else is booked up. So you got to wait till tomorrow. I said, screw that. And I walked about a mile and a half, mile and a quarter to AutoZone, which was downhill the whole way there and uphill the whole way back. About, I felt like 250 feet elevation change with just a battery on my shoulder, walking a mile and a quarter, which is not always fun. And they're not like super comfortable. And but I remember saying, "Thank God I'm able to do this. Thank God I'm able to be able to get this done." And I was like, not even mad at my ex because I was like, "Fuck!" At this time, I would have been pissed. I've been like, "Why didn't you just start it?" And blaming everybody for everything else. And at this time, I was like, "No, thank God I can do this." And I was packing up my house, and my Doberman at that time, he had his fourth impaction. He got impacted. He ate something while Christina was watching him, and she tried to take him to the vet, the emergency room. Nobody was there. They said it was okay, and then the impaction actually settled. And he had a second bout of colitis and his fourth impaction. And I had to put him down the day before I actually left and went on the road for a month and a half because I didn't know where I was going to live. I was homeless at this time.
You living in a truck or
My truck.
Okay.
All my possessions were inside a storage unit. I had Smokey at the time, so it was just Smokey and I, and Dobby is no longer. And I hit the road, and yeah, it's gone. And so I went to Billings. Actually, went to Devil's Tower the first night I spent there. Went on a date with some random girl over in Spearfish, South Dakota. Went to the Badlands before I met up with her. And then I ended up going to Billings and looked at about four houses. The house I'm in now was the last house. It was kind of serendipitous and glad I moved in here. But I was still homeless for about another month and a half. And went to 5 national parks, 3 national monuments, visited 3 of my Marine Corps buddies, and I had a really good time. I had a really good time on the trip. My sister flew out there. She spent some time with me in Glacier. Another friend of mine, Brittany, she flew out to Seattle, picked her up, and went down to Boise. I was grateful. I had some friends that came out, and this led me to a whole new world. And when I say that I spent so much time thinking about what got me to the suicide point is what got me to wanting to do this podcast. And the more that I learn by working with people at my job, the more research I do. Like my school right now has heavy emphasis on mental health. I'm going to be next 2 years. I'm going to be doing it for social work, my master's, which I'm grateful that the VA is paying for. And it's been a blessing to be alive because I can tell you about all these things and the emotions are not there. They're kind of grayed out, but I still remember them all. And I still remember the emotions of how I felt, but I don't feel those emotions now. I can tell you about the experiences I was experiencing, but I don't get triggered like how I used to.
Your time in the hospital, your time with your friends, you got that kind of transition in between to where we're at today or where you're at today. when you're running around and you got to go to all those parks and you're homeless and kind of doing those things after your hospital stay, did you share where you're at with those people? Did they know you just got out of the hospital, or was just Will on a runabout visiting family and friends and seeing things? Or
They knew where I was. I actually at this time I accepted the ideology of radical rejection, which to me meant this is me. This is me with no mask on. This is me who the fuck I am. Love it, hate it. That's cool. If you don't like it, great, you're out of my life. That's cool. I'm not going to actually keep you there. If you like it, great. Let's go break bread. And so yeah, they knew where I was.
awesome. Well, that's with those masks or whatever that thing was. Is did you have those before? And obviously, I think just as dudes, we're going to talk about this anyways, but often guard your feelings because you don't want to be judged or all the plethora of things that come with that from your peers and other people that you care about. But were you cognitively wearing those masks, or was it just like, okay, now I'm ready? Because typically people that are around you care can see that something's up, but we don't always. And you likely didn't let everybody else in on the what's and whys, other than, hey, Will's just off.
Will is just off. It was five finger death punch, a little bit off today. Was pretty much the story of my life, and it was just very interesting. Where it was, I felt that I needed to have this persona with a lot of people. Of I had to be on, but most of the time I was off. And before I went to the hospital, before and all our relationships, I didn't go to many of the family gatherings, the extended family gatherings. I don't have the best relationship with my cousins, and that's because of me. And it's been so much time between it. I don't even know where to start to make amends. I kind of feel like that ogre that's coming out of the woods and just saying, "Hey, I'm back now. Would you guys like to hang out? I'm better." But at this time, my life is starting, and theirs is already in a very different direction than mine. And it's like this other stuff that comes about it where it's, hey, I'm sorry I acted and I behaved this way, and this is what was happening. And you could tell people and you could hope that they would actually want to hear it. But at the same time, I created all these negative behaviors and these patterns, and I live in Montana now. Most of my family lives on the East Coast, and I really hope for everybody to be doing well. But at the same time, I don't have much contact with my nieces and my nephews. Um, it's just, it was hard.
What's next? You got to where you're doing different things and feeling better, but you're not fixed, right? You're in a different spot than you were before.
Right now, if you ask me where I'm at right now,
Hmm.
right now, where I'm at is that I'm actually loving my life. I'm enjoying the journey. I'm enjoying the fact that I can do these things. I'm enjoying the fact that I might have been stuck for quite some time. Do I still have night terrors? Yeah. I When I have them, I say, "Will, I love you, bud. You got this." Or if my butthole puckers when I go past a crack or a pothole on the road, I'm like, "Thank you, Will. You got me." And I'm talking to my old self, the one that's actually kept me alive. So if I see something hanging from the power lines, I'm like, "Cool. You're getting anxious. I know what you're doing, bud. You got me." And even though I still have these flares, I've learned how to be kind to myself. I've learned, like I even had you and your wife and Candace go out to the candlelit orchestra thing, and it was a great time. I know it was outside your comfort zone,
Yep.
and it was a hell of a time.
It was awesome.
But so you asked me what's next? Is I'm gonna keep doing the podcast. Still, I'm gonna get better at this. I'm figuring out the areas that I would like to work in as far as clinically. I also want to keep spreading love, as much love as I freaking can to people because there's not enough love being spread. So when it comes to a transaction, and I really want to be as altruistic, loving as I can.
Is that a mission? Is that like I could ask you? I think I understand obviously the situation and stuff leading up to, but it's easy for me to say, all right, well, at one point you didn't want to live.
Yeah.
Now you do. What are you living for?
So I read this book by Charles Dawkins, and it's called The Selfish Gene. And a lot of it had to deal with actually having offspring and passing on your genes and the immortality complex. And a lot of that issue. And then pair that with Gandhi's quote that gets paraphrased, and I'm going to paraphrase it too: be the change in the world that you want to see. What I realized is in my own healing journey and all the literature I've read and the job that I'm doing and talking with people is that I'm working towards being the best person I can because the Marine Corps standards were leave it better than when I found it.
Awesome.
And the way I'm living for is to keep helping people along the way because at the same time, I feel like there's too much freaking hate in the world. And the more that I actually give in love, the more I feel my cup is being filled and the less resistance I feel and the more connection I go into.
We often talk about this, with the different folks that we get a chance to, the conversations that you and I have, environments like this and just fun things that both interest both of us when it comes to, working with people and trying to be a little bit better ourselves. But, there's a catalyst for whatever that trauma is that you deal with. Something caused PTSD. And then you have your childhood and life experiences, and then that thing that gets rubbed in your face, and then all the little traumas that get smeared all along the way. That being said, Will, is that you might say that, probably the most impactful just in hearing your story for you, for that catalyst for change was obviously your suicide attempt, but going into the hospital was like, all right, I'm going to immerse myself with trying to fix Will. Everything above and beyond that sound like tools as well. That big tool for you might not be the big tool for somebody else. So through your experience, the CBT, the substance abuse reduction, the building relationships, the self-discovery, all those things that are tools to help make you a little bit better to treat that disorder. It's not going to be the same for everybody. So how would you give advice to somebody else that's dealing with a mental health concern to say, hey, you got to do the work, right? How do you start? What's the first thing? Maybe they don't have that frickin' rock bottom. Maybe they're 2 tickies above rock bottom and you're going to help them stop from getting there.
So I believe rock bottom is very different for everybody else. And then sometimes we'll say we hit rock bottom and they say, hold my beer and I'm going to drill even further. Mm-hmm. And it's a very valuable question. So again, this goes back to when I was the conversation that I was talking about with Mitch and Karen, where they were talking about how do we reach people. My thing is to hopefully agitate people enough to start looking inwards. And the other part is you can do cognitive behavioral therapy. It might help you out because you change your behavior, you change your mindset. You do cognitive processing therapy, you start processing the emotions and the memories, and then it's going to leave a void. You do prolonged exposure, you can start talking about it and re-listening to it until the fact that the emotions and the memory changes. Even your voice inflection changes. And you could do EMDR, where you're actually focusing on the light and moving your eyes back and forth and processing it that way in a safe place. You can do the plant medicine from ayahuasca to ibogaine to psilocybins to MDMA to ketamine. That might actually help it out. But you're right. Is there one shoe that fits all? Fuck no. But you might need a sprinkle of all of them. You might have to make it into this beautiful fucking salad called mental health. And the the first part is saying I need help. Is actually saying I need help. I don't need help for somebody else. I need help. I don't want to be this person for somebody else so that to stay. I need it so I can stay. The first part is truly for yourself.
How do you start that? I don't feel right. What do you recommend? Like, again, you got an audience now, Will. You share your story. Like, it's not the same for everybody, but I don't feel right. What do I do?
So one of the things I talk to people about, and I'll use a case that I've talked with a person. He was ambivalent about talking to a therapist. And I said, hey, go talk to a therapist. Oh, what does that mean? I sit across with somebody to fix it. I said, no, it's fucking not that. I said, you got to actively participate. It's
Fix me.
nobody's going to be able to fix you. It's going to be you there with a sounding board, with a hollow bone actually just being there, reverberating back to you what they're hearing, allowing you to hear your own thoughts instead of just think them. Having a person to have an emotional relationship with a person that you can feel safe and trusted with, that is not going to use it, manipulate you, as or a transactional relationship for a tit for tat. But you're hiring an individual that has this type of degree and having a little bit of trust in them. That's a huge part to it. And if you're not even ready for that, start doing some notes, doing some journaling, writing down your thoughts. What are you feeling that day? Doesn't have to be in full sentences. It's whatever you journal. And 3 things you're grateful for. Another big thing is telling yourself you love you. For me, it would be saying, hey, I love you, Will. I love you, Will. I love you, Will. I look at myself in the eyes in the mirror. For you, it would be saying, I love you, Rod. I love you, Rod. There's multiple ways to step. Does it mean that everybody has to take the same step, maybe in the Marine Corps on the left foot? But everybody else, no. It's just about saying, I need help. Like noticing if we are not present for people, that might be a sign. We might actually say, I need to be inebriated to what we like to say, go to sleep, but it's really be passed out.
Mhm.
Maybe there might be a sign saying that I feel like people are distancing themselves from me, or I'm being overly obsessive with things and I'm trying to control it. And asking for help. There's you have the 988 number that's not just for vets, but that's the one is for veterans on it, for veteran crisis line. There's a lot of literature out there for people to get help. There is nonprofits out there. There's sliding scale systems for mental health, for money if you're hurting. There's a lot of areas, and it's not just one place. And I realize Googling is a skill. It's more of a skill than I just thought it was for everybody. I thought it would just be understanding, just ask the damn question. Just ask a question through Google. It might come back foolish, but the only person that's being foolish is the person not asking the question. Because the best thing that ever happened to me was letting go of control, letting go of the reins.
Have you gotten out of all the things that you've experienced in your 12 episodes? So we got a little bit of Will's story, how you ended up where you are today, bit of your mental health journey, some of your past, your why behind your trying to do the podcast. But dude, you've already got a great accomplishment associated with what you've done here, and I hope that you can be proud of what you've shared. But I'm curious to know what you've learned. Like, you've talked to a bunch of really great dudes. I've listened to all your podcasts, all those interviews. as I mentioned in the beginning, is, having those conversations with my family and friends and other people that I think that this is valuable to. Again, that feedback's been great because a lot of those folks aren't where maybe some of those other people are, and being able to convey, that message themselves or be vulnerable enough to say, hey, you know what, I'm a little bit fucked up too. That follow-up question that I've had with everybody, although we might not have gotten into the details, the takeaway is that all those conversations, it's very simple for an adult male, regardless of their age and stage and what they do, to not be able to relate to everybody that you've talked to. So awesome accomplishment. Thank you for being able to share that with me. And again, my other friends. But what have been the takeaways from your conversations with the people that you've talked to?
So a lot of the areas that I've looked at is there's been a lot of sexual trauma in people's youth. It actually more boys or children are raped more than we actually know. Um, it's easy to say we have generational trauma, but it's hard for us to be able to recognize that our parents are doing what they only know back then. Some people are fucking pieces of shit, but at the same time, it's whatever your childhood trauma is or whatever your trauma is your trauma. It's not anybody else's. It's not comparative. Comparative suffering is probably the devil in recovery. The other aspect to it is that a lot of the guys that I have actually interviewed, or pretty much every single one of them, had childhood trauma. And the childhood trauma, like people going into the military, a lot of the guys have had absentee fathers, and from alcohol or being separated from the home or other things, and not having strong, positive masculine role models. Another thing that I took away from it is that half the listeners of it are females, and half the females are trying to understand about what we're going through. And they're trying to interpret it through other people being vulnerable, and sometimes just having that clear communication with a person, regardless of the adversity of what's going to happen. It's better to get that healing started instead of actually trying to kick the can down the road. Because each time you kick the can down the road, it gets a little bit more dented, and it doesn't get fined out. It doesn't get cleaned up. It just gets more and more damaged. But the other aspect is, you asked about not one size fits all, and you're right. Interviewed CT. He did Ibogaine, but he did a lot of other treatments, and that helped him. I know other people that had to do EMDR or CPT. People use. I had two guys on there of how they used art. One was actually doing was doing poetry and painting.
Yeah.
And then there was another guy that was doing pottery and beating it up. And it's not just vets. It's a lot of times it's this inner child that we have not actually really listened to that keeps us stumbling in the dark, because that's the one that's tripping us up, because we have not been listening to them. We haven't been listening to our inner child, the one that needs to be heard and seen, and going back in time or just sitting there and comforting it. So that's what I've learned.
Something you said stuck with me, and we've had the privilege of having this conversation outside of your podcast, but you started this up for men, right? Dudes to be able to help dudes open up a little bit, understand that they're not alone, work through some shit, share some experiences, and just have a sense of belonging differently. With that, half of your audience is women. Not what you expected, not what you were targeting. How does that make you feel?
You know what actually makes me feel? So I've had a friend of mine, she told me she understands how her ex-husband behaved, and gave her a little bit of clarity, gave her a little bit more empathy for her ex-husband, even though he did her wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Another female I know personally, she told me she had a mental illness and she's in a high power job. And somebody else that had the same type of mental illness, she felt like she wasn't so alone. And when I actually think about it, I'm grateful that I have women that would want to listen to me. I know my voice sounds atrocious. When I ever hear it back, I'm like, Jesus, man, like, why does anybody actually listen?
I think it's everybody though.
Yeah,
like you hear your voice, you're like, wow.
It sounds different in our heads.
You didn't have your hearing aids in. Yeah,
pretty much. But I take it as a blessing. I really do. I take it as a blessing for anybody to listen to it. And the way I actually find success in this podcast is if it just stirs up the type of dialogue, the communication and connection.
I've heard you ask, other folks that you've interviewed a couple of questions, and I don't want to repeat those, but I think in this example, it's a perfect opportunity. But before I get to specifically to Will, but knowing what you've learned about the female audience in your relationships prior, how would you better educate Lindsay? How would you better educate Christina in that scenario, knowing what you know now, helping a friend that's a female that has a veteran or a spouse or somebody that they're struggling that like, all right, cool. I'm not going to let my fucking friends deal with that and go through that. And I want to share my story. I want to share my experience. Obviously the podcast will be able to do that, but take that to younger Will and younger Will's relationships. What would you do different knowing that you know now?
So this is going to sound kind of messed up, but I also believe it kind of being true. Christina and Lindsay, they both hung on way too long. And they kept hanging on, and the relationship eroded too much. And they weren't able to, and when they were ready to leave, and I was ready to see about the consequences of my actions, It was over. They wanted me to wake up sooner, but at that time, they didn't hit me with a big enough stick. They didn't actually take the steps sooner so that I could actually been able to wake up. And I know it sounds selfish and all, but we have our loved ones that are there. They keep trying, and then just stop knocking at the door one day. And then all of a sudden we run out of the house looking for them. And they're nowhere there to be gone. And they change course. But if we stop a little bit sooner than when we're about to give up, we can actually hopefully have that chance to have that emotional buck up, emotional hiccup, and realize that, hey, you've been trying to hold my bags, you've been trying to carry everything along. But stopping a little bit sooner might be able to have enough energy for us to really jumpstart this.
Awesome. So what I think I hear you're saying is that you got somebody that you care about that you think struggling, is fucking shake them.
Shaking babies.
Right? I mean, is that what you're saying? Is like,
yeah, you gotta shake it up.
Don't give up on them. Be that freaking that catalyst, the agitator. Is that the?
Yeah.
And do you have recommendations to people on maybe a good way to broach that? Because obviously husband and wife relationships are different than father-son relationships and friend relationships. How do you broach that with somebody that you care about?
So NAMI has a really good one. It's called Homefront.
What's NAMI, Will?
National Alliance of Mental Institutions.
Illness, yeah, something of the sort.
And really great organization. And they do like couples, well, no, not couples, but they do people living with a mental illness. That's a great way to look into this. If your person is using substances, Al-Anon's a great way to look at it. Also, even going to an AA or an NA meeting and actually understanding where they're coming from. It's putting your toes a little bit in the dirtier water to understand about where they're walking at and what they're actually drinking.
It's awesome. Well, often we surround ourselves with people that, we want to care about and likely care about us as well. But again, it's like, how do you do that without stepping on people's toes and making them feel attacked, right? Will's already in a rough spot. His good buddy Rodney comes in to call bullshit on him. Hey, dude, you don't look like you're doing right. You all right today? Nah, I'm good. All right, cool. Well, I don't want to trigger Will. I don't want to feel bad, but Will and I have a relationship that it's like, no, I expect you to call me on my bullshit. Mm-hmm. And how do you encourage that relationship with people that may not have it today? Or just, I know I've lost friends by telling them I care about them, right? And that's a hard thing to do because now you're inserting yourself into something else to make that person feel vulnerable on a different level that they couldn't before. But shit, you care about them.
Well, I hate to say it, it's not really always losing in a person to be able to cause a dynamic change.
Yeah.
And I know you might feel like you push people away because, hey, man, I fucking love you, bud. Like, what can I do to help you out? And you're like, yo, just ease it off. And it's at the same time, it's like, you might need to take that step back because both my exes had to walk away with love. And even though we're really not in each other's lives, at the same time, they were able to help me up to that point and give me the tools to be able to be successful. Not everybody that's going to be on our paths are going to be with us for the rest of our life, but it's also pretty nice to have them along the journey with us instead of actually being upset when they leave.
"40 years old, Will. What would you tell 18-year-old Will that's standing on the yellow footprints, getting ready to go in the Marine Corps?" You had a whole life before you got there, but that's where the wheels started to come off the bus. What would you tell yourself today?
It's a great question. The joke, the first thing that comes to my mind is that you're about to see a lot of dicks. But in all seriousness, it's be vulnerable, be transparent. Things are going to hurt you. Things are going to feel like they can take your soul away from you. You're going to feel like an empty vessel. But everything that you want and you love is still inside you. Listen to it. That pain is going to feel like it hurts so much. But listen to the pain. Don't run from it. Sit with it. Be grateful for it. Learn to love it. Learn to love yourself. Learn to love your scars. Learn to love yourself.
Why do you think that's so hard?
Shame, doubt, guilt, judgment, keeping up with the Joneses.
That's a tough one, right? Trying to measure yourself against everybody else. And I know where you live and where you recreate and your career and social media and all the things that come with that is certainly not what it was 10 years ago, let alone 20 years ago, right? So
yeah. Like, the other thing that I learned, find friends that you value and the ones that make you become a better person. And you guys can grow together. Find people with a growth mindset. Fixed mindset is going to kill you. And don't be afraid to be a child.
Why?
Because being a child means that you can be able to have your creative senses. You can go barefoot in the grass. You can remember the mud, the cold. You remember the nicks and the hurts. Tried something and you failed. You're able to experience life and grow. Get out there.
All right, I got another one for you.
What's up?
Future Will.
Yep.
20 years from now, 25 years from now. Future Will's met all his goals. Went to school, rocked out the podcast, impacted an immeasurable amount of lives, done all the things that we want to do. What would 25 years ahead Will tell Will today?
Embrace the suck.
Tell me more. What's that mean?
What that means is that just because it feels like the days are long or they're hard, you're growing. Keep leaning into it. Feel it. But don't forget to actually enjoy the times. Don't forget to enjoy your life. Don't work away your life. Enjoy the passion. Retirement is a myth. Learn to love the journey. Never retire. I think what I would say is that all the boxes wouldn't be checked because if we keep creating boxes, keep creating goals, keep reevaluating, keep allowing yourself to experience, keep being willing to change, keep being interested and investigating.
Awesome. What else you got, brother? I ain't got anything else for you, man. I mean, we do this often, and we get to do it a lot. So, without writing down a million different questions, what are we missing? What's not on Will's story that you want your listeners and everybody else to know about you?
The last thing I should tell you guys before I hop off, and thank you guys for having listened to this long. And hopefully the audio of my voice went through because I realized it dropped a few times. But the last thing I'll tell you is that it might have been painful when in different parts of the seasons, but just like growth, it's like ripping those muscles. Just like get back into the gym, you're sore, and get back to the grind, and you're uncomfortable. Remember that the agitation, the pain, in a positive way is a good thing. There's a difference between pain and injury. And if you're injured, it's okay to take that rest. It's okay to reflect. It's okay to put down the weights for a second. You might not be as far as along the same journey as far as you want to be, but you sure as hell get further than if you just keep trying to chug ahead. And remember to tell yourself you love yourself. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Thanks, Will.